Okay, let's start. And now an official warm welcome to everybody to today's Impact for Breakfast session. For those who are joining for the first time, I'm Deborah Keller, and I manage the Global Impact for Breakfast Network, an initiative supported by Artha Impact, the impact investing arm of the Rianta Capital Family Office. Impact for Breakfast is an informal network of family offices, foundations, funds, venture philanthropy, and intermediary organizations with a common focus on social enterprise, entrepreneurship, and impact investing. This specialized group has been gathering and growing since 2008, starting in London, and with an expansion today to 16 cities/chapters. Today, we will speak about a topic that cannot get enough attention, which is menstrual health. Menstruation is a normal and healthy part of life, and yet girls and women in India go through extreme struggles to manage their period every month. A large chunk of the population in India believes this natural cycle to be a curse, impure and dirty, among other things, courtesy of the ancient myths surrounding menstruation in the Indian country. According to Census 2011 population data, about 336 million girls and women in India are of reproductive age and menstruate 2 to 7 days every month. And yet, the topic of menstruation is expected to be a hush affair and kept under wraps of the black plastic bags, which is given to them, most of them, each time when they buy sanitary napkins. To address this huge challenge, the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition has been formed, which is a strategic alliance of companies, NGOs, that uses innovative financing and on-the-ground activation to empower menstruators to choose sustainable menstrual hygiene products that benefits their health and well-being. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me two amazing speakers. Please welcome with me Arundhati Muralidharan, steering group member of the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition, and Frederick Galton, co-founder and CEO of the True Footprint organization. The aim of today's session is to give you an overview of the current activities and the efforts undertaken by the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition. We are planning a second series of this session to further dive into that topic and to see whether we can form partnerships and add on more people to that coalition. I will let Frederick share a little more about this opportunity a little later. Before we dive into today's session, I want to inform you that this session is being recorded. We will share with you the link after the event in a follow-up note, which you're welcome to share with anybody that may benefit from the insights shared today. As always, we welcome your thoughts, comments, ideas, questions, and you can share those in the chat field while our speakers will be sharing their inputs and present. We should have some extra time and a dedicated Q&A slot after the presentation to go through those questions. And now, with no further ado, over to you, Arundhati.
Thank you very much, Deborah, and a very warm welcome to everyone this morning and this afternoon, depending on where you're joining us. I thank you for this opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about menstrual health in India and why we see the need for the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition and the kind of change that it can potentially affect in the country. Before Frederick takes over to really dig deep into the work of the SMC and the proposed interventions and innovative solutions, I want to pick up from where Deborah left on what's the context. Why do we need to be looking at menstrual health in India? As Deborah said, menstruation is a normal, healthy, physiological phenomenon. And yet we see that over 360 million girls and women of reproductive age in India struggle to manage this basic biological process. And it's for a host of reasons that Deborah also touched on. We see that the issue is deeply rooted in very deep-set gender and social norms. We see there have been several barriers and challenges to accessing education and information on how the body works, what menstruation is, and what do you do to manage it in a safe and in a healthy manner. We see that girls and women and other individuals who experience menstruation find it difficult to access safe and hygienic products, whether they're sanitary pads, menstrual cups, reusable cloth pads, or just clean cloth to manage their periods. Girls and women also face barriers to safe and accessible and gender-friendly water sanitation and hygiene facilities, as well as disposal options. And we also see that there are issues that are related to creating a favorable socio-cultural, economic, and a political environment that enables girls and women to make choices that suit their bodies and their needs. I'm going to share with you today some pictures from the field that I've taken over the years that I've been working on menstrual health, almost 2 decades now. And this picture that you see is probably one of my favorites. I took it about 12 years ago in a slum in Mumbai. And it represents 4 women, a mother and her daughters at different stages of adolescence. And I look at this picture often because it reminds me, as I hope it will remind all of you, that menstruation is something that girls and women across the reproductive lifespan experience, right from puberty up to menopause. So it is a phenomenon that we're experiencing for almost 40 years of our lives. And if you see that, plus a number of girls and women in India that are experiencing this and the challenges that they face, we see that there is a huge opportunity and a huge need to ensure that our experience of something so natural can be done safely and in a manner that contributes to our overall health. Now, earlier last year, just about a year ago, there was a very powerful conceptualization of menstrual health that was proposed in line with how the World Health Organization looks at health, which is a complete state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity with regards to the menstrual cycle. Now, this definition is very powerful because it reminds us that menstrual health is something that is an integral part of a menstruator's well-being and their health. And this is something that the SMC wants to keep in mind. Now, why do we want you to care about menstrual health? One is the numbers. Secondly, is that we see that the inability to manage menses in a safe manner affects girls and women in various ways. We see that as girls enter puberty and those who are going to school, they often begin to miss school days, and some even drop out of school because they're unable to manage their menstruation. So either that they don't have access to products in schools, access to safe sanitation facilities, they may experience pain and other kind of menstrual syndromes that keeps them away from education. And we're all aware that when girls are not able to complete their education, it has a lifelong impact on them, their health, and the health of their families. Second, we also see that adult women who are engaged in the workforce, whether formal or informal labor, when they are unable to manage their menses, it also affects their health, their well-being, and their productivity, their ability to earn and take care of themselves and their families. So we're seeing that this impact is quite pervasive. We also see that in COVID in the past 2 years, there's been huge global attention to how menstrual health has been affected by the pandemic in various ways. But most powerfully, and one that is likely to sustain into the future, is the economic impacts that families and individuals have faced as a result of loss of income, loss of jobs. And this affects our ability, again, to access safe products, education, information, and the supports that are required. Now, lastly, we also see that there are groups who are particularly vulnerable to poor menstrual health. These are poor, marginalized, and vulnerable communities, but also within these communities, there are those who are even more susceptible. We see across the world and in India an increase in the number of natural emergencies and as well as other kinds of disasters, both man-made and natural, that are affecting us. And this affects girls and women who experience menstruation. Alongside this, we also know that there are other groups, such as girls and women with disabilities, persons who are transgendered, who experience menstruation but receive far less support. And that's why we need to keep working on menstrual health. Now, the picture is not all gloomy. In India, we've also seen over the past decade tremendous progress. And here are two pictures. One on the left is of a vending machine that makes sanitary pads available for fairly, fairly affordable rates. At rupees 1, 5, and 10, you can access sanitary pads. And we've also seen that the sanitary pad market has boomed in India. So we have different varieties of products that are available at a range of price points.
We're not able to see the picture. Maybe if you, or at least I'm not.
Let me try it.
Now we see. Yeah.
Great. So we do see that these products are more available, and the latest, the Demographic Health Survey of India has shown that more girls and women have access to sanitary pads than ever before. Now, while this can be seen as important progress, I think that we also have to keep in mind that when we're looking at the health of girls and women, we also want to look at it from a sense of well-being, of agency, of decision-making, of having control over your body and over the choices that you make for your health. And a top-down approach that's making one particular type of product available to women and to girls takes away that element of agency and choice. And that's something that we want to bring back. And ideally, we want to move towards this picture, which I hope that you can see. And this picture shows us a sanitary pad, but it also shows us a reusable pad in a menstrual cup. Now, in India, we're also seeing a slight and a good progress towards diversification of the market in India in terms of menstrual hygiene products. We have a range of reusable or sustainable options that are now becoming available, which includes a variety of menstrual cups, as well as reusable cloth pads and menstrual underwear, and hopefully in the future, more innovations. And this is critical.
The third picture is not showing. Can you move on to the next picture?
I'm so sorry. Let me see if I can. Are you able to see it now?
No.
Now you stop the screen sharing.
Okay, let me just try this again. My apologies, everyone.
No worries at all. Yes, now
I hope you can see it.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So we want to move to a situation where we're able to present menstruators with choices that are sustainable. And it's important for us to also see how do we understand this term sustainability? So one is that it's products or that are important and that are important for the health of users. And what this means is that it's good for their own health, but it's also something that that's good for them, not just at every period, but in those 40 years that they will experience menstruation. It's something that suits their bodies, as well as the socio-economic lived realities of their life. Now, sustainability from the other angle also has environmental implications. So now, this leads to the downstream management of products when they're used. So how are those products, after they've been used, after their shelf life is over, how are they impacting the environment around us, the air, the soil, the water around us? That's also something that we need to be keeping in mind, while also keeping the user experience central. Now, I'm going to end with two last photographs. And this is a picture that I recently took from one of my field visits in a rural tribal area. This is actually a village, and it's a beautiful picture. It was a beautiful place. But
so
what
please
really
click on it, Arundhati, so we can see it. Then, yeah, there. We see it now.
I'm sorry. Yes. Now this is really beautiful area, but what this picture really reminds me every time I look at it is to see that girls and women had to walk to these water sources to get water, and the water source that you see, it's a small stream with a waterfall, is where they also would bathe. Now this is where they had to go to collect water, to bathe, and to address any of their menstrual hygiene needs. But as you can see here, there was no opportunity for disposal of the menstrual hygiene products. And this was quite challenging for these girls and women. So one is they sometimes threw their used products into the stream that you see in front of you. Sometimes they would bury it around in the greenery that you can see. And some girls would even wear a product for much longer than is considered safe or hygienic. So using a pad for 15 hours, 20 hours, and even maybe a day, 24 hours, and then complaining of genital irritation and other kinds of symptoms, which we know are representative of reproductive tract infections. So an idyllic setting, but again, significant challenges to the use and disposal of products. I'm sorry, I hope that you can see this last slide.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, great. Now, juxtapose that with another picture I took just a couple of years ago in a dense urban slum, and this is a community toilet complex in that slum. And again, here we see that there are several toilet stalls in the female toilet complex, so that's great. It definitely catered to the needs. But again, a striking thing is there wasn't a single dustbin or any other kind of disposal facility that was available to girls and women who were using this community toilet complex. Again, reminding us that when we're talking about products, our ability to use them safely, hygienically, and to dispose of them are things that we need to be able to keep in mind as we're looking at this. So these pictures were just a snapshot of why it's important for us to be looking at menstrual health and hygiene in India. One is to make sure that girls and women and others who experience menstruation have access to information, platforms where they can share and discuss what their experiences are, access to a range of hygienic products that enable them to manage their menses safe, hygienically, and in a way that really responds to their needs and the context in which they live. And of course, we need to be looking at innovative solutions that are good for individual users, but also that take into consideration larger issues that are related to the environment as well as to health. So with this, I'll end and I'll hand over to Frederick to talk more about the innovative solutions. Thank you.
Arundhati, thank you so much. Arundhati truly is a leading expert activist, change maker in India on this issue, and we're delighted to work with her and several other people who are on the call who have joined forces to create the SMC, the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition. I'm especially grateful to Padmini Murthy, Dr. Padmini Murthy, who has gotten up extremely early to take part in this at 4 a.m. in New York City. So thank you very much, Padmini, and I hope we'll hear from you later on. So just adding a couple of elements to this overview that Arundhati provided, right, is that it seems that 70%, an estimated 70% of girls have no idea what menstruation is before they get their first period in India. So an incredible gap in terms of awareness. The COVID pandemic accentuated the differences, and many more women had difficulty obtaining regular access to sanitary menstrual products. This estimation of the number of girls indeed who drop out of education, very large numbers are mentioned there. A number that has been used quite widely is 23 million. It seems that the pandemic has made it worse. These are 23 million girls a year. Now, so the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition did not discover this issue at all. Many people have been doing incredible work on this for a number of years. Arundhati is among them, and the work that she has done with WaterAid and others. In fact, Rianta Capital is an investor in sustainable menstruation products in India, right? So what is it that we could possibly contribute that may be additional and really contribute what we hope is, the ambition of this coalition is to contribute towards a systems change. A systems change when it comes to access and when it comes to the fundamental issue of period poverty. Right? Being poor cannot possibly be a reason why a woman, a girl, is not able to access a menstrual hygiene product, and indeed they should be able to access a sustainable one, which includes the use, the product itself, and the disposal. And this issue of period poverty is by no means limited to India. It's not limited even to the global south. Period poverty is an issue that's actually on the agenda in the US, for example. Right? So this is not singling out any one country, but the proposal with the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition is indeed to start in India. And so I'm just going to tell you now, which I'm going to come back to at the end, that we want your help. Right? So part of our idea in having this session in the Impact for Breakfast series, which we've had a pleasure in speaking of before, is to get the help of the IFB community. So I'm warning you that this is not just an educational session. Now, with the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition, the aim is to reach 100 million menstruators across India within 7 years. By 2030, the SDG year, we want to reach 100 million women. Why this big number? Because in a country of India's size, in order to effect some kind of systems change, we think that it's necessary to be operating at that size. In order to achieve that, it's not enough to have a policy change, right? There are, in fact, public distribution centers that provide, subsidized grains and oils, for example, often distribute sanitary pads, but they're often of such terrible quality and that they are not made use of particularly. So again, it's not that we have discovered the Columbus egg here. This is very much on the agenda already, but there is something that is a gap. Now, one of these opportunities Arundhati highlighted is that there is now a range of far more sustainable products. And some of them are even compostable. One of the potential game changers, not that we're pushing one product, is the menstrual cup, which currently has a very low usage, but bit by bit one is seeing very high rates, not just but primarily high rates of satisfaction with the use of the menstrual cup. A menstrual silicone grade cup, one that is made well, can have a lifespan of 10 years. So that's quite extraordinary. And a woman can wear it for many hours at a time, and the whole village doesn't need to know that the girl is having her period, unlike some products where it may be far more visible. What we are trying to do with this coalition, as I said, the aim is ambitious. So how are we going about this? We are going about this by bringing together a coalition of a wide range of NGOs and corporates. And so there are three new approaches, you could say, that we're putting on the table, and that has already generated quite a wonderful momentum. One is a new way of truly having menstruators being at the center of the change. The product, however good it is, if it is not used, if it is not with a high degree of satisfaction, there's no point, right? There's no point distributing a free, wonderful product if it's not going to be used. It'll just contribute to garbage. So there has to be education, there has to be sensitization, but there has to be an assurance that it's really the product that the girl is happy to use. And for that, we have a technology developed at True Footprint called the True Footprint Field App that is going to be used to provide peer-to-peer support and real-time data being generated from the ground up, which all the participating NGOs that will be doing the last mile distribution will be using and sharing, which means that we will have insights into how the rollout is actually working and which products are achieving high rates of satisfaction and usage, right? In real time. So that's never been done before, that the organizations are sharing this and are really open to that being done in real time. The second is a new way of engaging companies. So in India, there is a CSR provision where we have a few companies that have already committed a CSR contribution to the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition. But no less important is that they walk the talk themselves, so that they commit to being a period poverty-free workplace and ideally a period poverty-free supply chain. So we have a company, for example, that employs roughly 400,000 people, 30% of whom are women, and they have said, yeah, we are committed to achieve this within the next couple of years. And so that's one other factor that's going to get us towards those 100 million. And then the third innovation is a new financing solution. So this cannot be funded from grants and CSR funding alone. We're not going to get to 100 million on that basis alone. Engaging the corporates in this way is certainly an opportunity, and that is significant, but again, not quite sufficient to get us to these numbers. And so the new financing solution is the commercialization of other outcomes generated through the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition. One of them is, for example, plastic credits, right? If plastic-based products are being displaced by sustainable ones. And another one is carbon credits. And this was actually the route that got us here initially, but is that Project Drawdown, if you're familiar with it, produces one of the most respected lists in the world of the most impactful climate solutions. And at position number 5 or 6 is among the most impactful climate solutions in the world, well ahead of electric cars, electric trains, and many other things, is the education of girls, education and health of girls. And the proposition is, and the observation is not complicated, ultimately. It is that women who finish secondary school have much higher lifetime earnings, have fewer children, and take better care of the children they have. It's good for themselves and it's good for their families. And that is a quantifiable carbon reduction, carbon emission. And we have already generated interest from corporates to actually be able to take part in this and to buy carbon credits that are a function of women's empowerment. So these three innovations, right? One is a broad-based coalition of NGOs that are all sharing the same source of data, which is generated directly from the women and girls. It's not top-down, it's truly bottom-up. The second is a very open way of engaging companies so that they can lead by example and be period poverty-free workplaces and supply chains. And then the third is this financing solution. So the call to action and the help that we would like to have and the discussion we would love to have with you is if there is any way that you have suggestions, any ways that you think we can improve this, any ways that you can help us in terms of the identification. Again, we're not wedded to any single product. It is the women and girls who are going to tell us which products are the ones they're most satisfied with. So there is an opportunity, however, to showcase, roll out, and to scale up the use of sustainable products. There is an opportunity to engage companies in innovative ways. And thirdly, and this relates actually to the way in which companies could be involved, is then buying carbon credits and plastic credits in an innovative way that helps us, again, to scale this. Very much looking forward to any questions and to opening this up for discussion. And can I just make a little side note, which is that I count roughly half our participants being male. And I think that's fantastic, right? What we have seen is there is a lot of interest from men. And in fact, from corporate leaders who are female, little question, they are interested. But actually for corporate leaders who are male, this is something where they can really show leadership. And honestly, it doesn't cost them anything. Right? In the scheme of things, this really doesn't cost anything to do, right? But it's an absolute shame that this should still be in the issue today. So delighted to welcome the men into this conversation. and of course, everyone else and all the women. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Frederick. Thank you, Arundhati, for these really insights, extremely expressive, interesting insights and impressive data that you shared with us. When Arundhati went through the picture, it struck me when I saw the vending machine with the picture on top, that there is no sign of that sanitary pads are in there. I don't know if that's the common machine and the common picture that is on that vending machine. But it seems, even though on those vending machines, it seemed to me that it's still a taboo, and it seems to be that even there, where you sell the sanitary pads, you can't even show a picture of a sanitary pad. So I'm just, I wonder whether the education, as you mentioned, Frederick, which is extremely important to realize the change and the change that we're looking for, the system change, whether how important is the education of men there as well? How important is it for them to learn about the menstruation, the cycle, about menstrual health? And maybe you can tell me if the coalition does anything to also to educate men on that topic, as they are part of the family and they are forming also forming their family and bringing up their daughters. Is there something happening there as well? Are men being educated?
I mean, so I'll let others also speak on this, Deborah, but actually it's a bit of a curious phenomenon. I think for the answer is yes. First of all, yes. And it's very, very important that this be happening. But the curious phenomenon that we have observed is the following. Is, for example, the menstrual cup. Young women, and this is a bit anecdotal, I don't know if there's been a study on this, are thrilled to adopt it at different ages, different classes. The ones who are standing in their way are very often their mothers. Their mothers didn't use the product, are raising all kinds of issues. And so you have teenagers crying, saying, my mother won't let me. The father doesn't know what's going on and isn't involved. So he's not the one standing in the way. So it turns out, at least when it comes to this product, that there is a major need to educate mothers on this, because again, this is not a product that they are familiar with. And one way is, of course, to get the mothers to adopt it, right? But in some settings, right? Again, so it's a bit more complicated than one might like to imagine.
Yeah. You can unmute yourself. You can share your question directly to Frederick or to Arundhati. If you have a question to share, or also, of course, comments are welcome, and ideas, as Frederick mentioned. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And for example, I see Monica here from the ILO, and that's wonderful, right? I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts from, or did we lose Monica? Maybe we did. From how this applies in the workplace.
I also see Jaydeep. Jaydeep is founder of ACAR. ACAR is a sustainable sanitary pad organization, and we've invested in the company, and they're doing amazing work. They're creating this amazing machine that produces sustainable sanitary pads and compostable sanitary pads.
Padmini, over to you first. You had raised your hand.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Thank you, Frederick. Hi, everyone from New York. The reason I didn't have my camera on because I'm still in my jammies. It's like 4:38 a.m. in the morning. Thank you both, Arundhati and Frederick, for a very interesting start to this conversation. There are just two things I wanted to put out there. like as a physician and a public health person, one of the things we found, like I say we because, you know, I'm kind of representing American Medical Women's Association, and we are delighted to work with you on the SMC, is we have been lobbying our politicians to introduce a bill to make sanitary products available and more accessible. Because as you said, Friedrich, this is a common issue in the US, especially in those who are socially disadvantaged, like women in prisons. We have a major issue with that because they do not have access. There's a lot of period poverty. And the other thing is a lot of us have been signing on to campaigns to reduce the taxes on sanitary products, which is a big issue here. Sanitary products are still taxed in many parts, most of the states in the US. And there is a campaign to where we reach out to the local elected officials and, you know, others generally to gather momentum to say that, please, why should it be taxed? Because it's not a luxury good. This is an essential commodity. And the other thing is when you were talking about rallying the troops, because you need all hands on the deck to do this, we found one of the things is I personally talked to my medical students and my other students, and we have been working with them on getting them involved, because what we need is student advocacy. It's really important. And you know, we've had campaigns where you give up your coffee for a day, you give up your latte for a day, and with that money, we like I worked with the former First Lady of Malawi, where we really collected money for a maternity home and to kind of get safe motherhood kits. So I am thinking it's really down the road. It's very useful to bring students from everywhere to talk about this. And my takeaway point to whenever I talk to any student, when they talk about, we were talking about family planning, menstrual health and women's health, is if your mom didn't have a period, you wouldn't be sitting in this room. So that's a way of educating boys and men, you know, right from the beginning. And again, thank you so much. Over to you, Friedrich. And, you know, and I just want to give a shout out to Imran, because I kind of got into this because of Imran and a very good common friend we both have who introduced me to Imran. So, you know, look forward to working with you all in any way to see that this really is, it becomes a reality, because it's also a human rights issue, not only for women and girls, but for all the communities. Thank you so much.
Dr. Padmini, thank you so much. Indeed, can I pass over to my dear friend and colleague Imran, who is the lead facilitator of the Sustainable Menstruation Coalition.
Thank you, Frederick. I just want to add to, well, thank you, Minnie, for that. And I see a lot of faces, as you mentioned, Frederick, from our coalition. We have a lot of SMC members here, including Jaydeep, who's unfortunately unwell with COVID at the moment, but has still joined us. Thank you for that. I want to just add to the education bit that you were talking about, Deborah. Yes, that's a very important part of the coalition. We do have another partner with us called MyTake, and they work specifically in social impact communication. They're ex-media people who work with a big media company in India, and they're working very hard on the communication side. So we are working, it's sort of a across the board communication where we work on the B2B, which is Sustainable Menstruation Coalition. But then as we go into deeper areas into India, which are tribal or deep rural areas, we will have a more sort of more friendly name for people to understand what the issue is. We also use social media that is unique to certain parts of India to spread the message, because not everybody uses the social media that we are used to. So they work specifically in areas such as the tribal areas of rural India to reach these people, to spread the message as well. Yes, men are an important part, because men do influence a huge amount of the way money is spent and the way the thinking of the family goes as well. So stigma is an important part of what we are tackling as well. So this is really a broad-based coalition with many different sectors involved, and each one has their role to play, and coming together is what has been our strength at the SMC.
Thank you, Imran.
Is anyone else working in this sector? Is there anything that you would like to share? And Jaideep, thank you very much for putting in this comment here. And this is indeed, you are producing a compostable biodegradable pad, right? Thank you.
Fredrik, maybe you could share a little more about how a partnership with the coalition would look like. So, and it would be interesting to hear from you, where do you see the coalition in the next few years? I know you've mentioned your goal of reaching 100 million women, but in terms of partnerships, who do you see as your partner in the coalition? And also maybe a question for you, Arundhati. So that the coalition can thrive and reach their goal of 100 million women in India.
Deborah, thank you so much. In fact, I'll turn it over to Imran and Arundhati, who are much more in the driver's seat on this. Imran, do you want to kick off?
Of course, the corporates are a very important part of what we want to do, because that's where we hope to get partnership funding, and also we hope that we can influence them, as was mentioned by both Arundhati and Fredrik, where we can influence them to have a period poverty-free workspace, and wider a period poverty-free supply chain as well. And for some of the companies, we're even pushing further to say that if you have, for example, your facilities where your manufacturing facilities or something in a village or in a region, that you go even further and make sure that that entire region where you work is period poverty free. Now, another thing that we will just clarify here is that when we are talking about reaching 100 million, and we're talking about reaching or fighting period poverty, we're also talking about the fact that we're going to be distributing the products. So this, because the reason why people can't use them is because they can't afford it. And that's one of the other really big things that we're talking about here, is that we're going to, in large numbers, distribute products and make sure that people can get that supply, just as Jaideep, or there are a few others as well, who have these little kits by which you can make them. So they're really simple machines that you set up in small villages, etc., where you can produce your own products, where you can dispose of products. They have disposal units as well. Of course, the cup, that's the beauty of the cup, is that it lasts for up to 10 years. And that's what has been a game changer, especially from what we've seen in tribal and other areas, because they are much, it's much more difficult to get products. So they love the idea of a cup, which can then be used for up to 10 years. And then that's the only time they need to change it. So it doesn't matter whether there's a COVID or there's a drought or there's a flood, even if there is an economic problem in the region, they are covered, and that makes it really easy for them. As far as partnerships are concerned, our ultimate aim is to make this into a public-private partnership. It is to bring the government on board as well. They are usually the last to get on board because they're the most difficult to convince. However, in India, we have seen that certain provinces, we've seen Odisha and Kerala, they have played a role already in introducing sustainable products as well. Other states have a scheme by which they have pads, but the quality is really, really poor, and the distribution mechanisms are not that sound, and so you have pads lying, and then they have to be disposed of because they were never used, which creates another problem. So yes, our ultimate aim is to work with governments as well. A lot of our partners over here have some dealings with governments at different levels, either at the village level or slightly higher at the district level, some even at the state level. So yeah, we want to bring in as many people into the coalition as possible. And at the moment, civil society partners, of course, are a major force because they are the frontline workers. They're the ones who are going to be at the front line working with girls and women. And the app that we're talking about, where we get feedback on what is happening, will again be in the hands of the menstruators, very much so. They are the ones who will talk about what they're facing, whether they're happy with the product, what issues have emerged, where the gaps lies. And because it is in real time and we have dashboards to see what the issue is, we can make immediate changes. We can help immediately in whatever problems that they have. Also, when our frontline workers work in an area and move on to the next place, the app remains in the hands of people. And so we are perpetually in touch with what is happening over there. Again, the app that the way we've designed it is that frontline workers will also have access to the app, so they too can keep filling in what is happening there. And then another very important part is that we have champions within society. So you have school teachers, you have certain parents that really get involved. We want them to be part of this as well, so that they can play a more leadership role before the young girls and then women, some of them emerge also as leaders, but at least we have certain people that are champions in society. Another important part about this is it's completely anonymous. So everybody is completely anonymous there. Whatever they say, nobody knows who's saying it. They will only be identified if they want to be identified, otherwise not. We follow complete guidelines on this to ensure that everyone is safe and anonymous. Arundhati, anything you want to add to that?
Yes, thanks so much, Imran. So I just want to add to what Imran has highlighted, from the perspective of being in this sector for a number of years, and I think the value addition of the SMC and its approaches is twofold. One is the whole thing of partnership. So I think Dr. Padmini, you had mentioned that how it's important to get various kind of actors engaged in kind of making those advocacy pitches. So students are a big part of this, and I think the way SMC is looking at these partnerships is to engage with civil society organizations, movements on the ground, but the private sector and the government as well, and bring them all together, not under like one organization, but bring them together in terms of an approach. So we're reaching far more people, which happens to be the goal, the objective of all these individual organizations or individual stakeholders. And I think that's where this kind of a partnership that's driven by a shared approach and a shared kind of goal to improve the lives of girls and women. So I think that really will help us reach the numbers. The second is, I think, the innovative way in which this is being done, which is kind of combining education with a product range. So not just a sanitary pad, which many of us have been promoting in India for a long time for good reason. But I think that approach really needs to shift now towards informed choice. So you have a strong awareness and an engagement component. You have access to products which are sustainable and also have health benefits, as well as looking at slightly more innovative financing or financial support mechanisms, which is something that we really haven't looked at in India. So I think by leveraging these three components, this is also something that's going to be very unique. And I think Imran said this in one of our meetings, that if this works in India, then it really would serve as a very powerful tool to share with other countries as well. Because if India is a test bed with its diversity, then this can really work in other places as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Imran. Thank you, Arundhati. I think that it's an amazing and a huge, unique approach that you have. And I love the idea that it's a bottom up, and that you're giving the women the power actually to lead on this and to own it, to own the decision, and to be the decision maker. And I think, and it's proven that word of mouth is the best marketing you can have. And I think when women share with other women about the game changer, the product they're using, I think this is going to spread like a fire, and that's super impactful. Frederick, do you have the chance to show us a snapshot of that app? I'm sorry if I put you on the spot there, but is there possible to see? Maybe we can also share that in a follow-up email. But is do you have the chance to show us something, how that app looks like, just to see it?
So my colleague Edwin is on the call. Edwin, are you able to show something? Otherwise, yeah, Edwin?
You give me a minute to set it up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, otherwise happy, we can share that in the follow-up note. I think I've seen apps from Truefruit before, but it's just, I think it's very important, and maybe it would be interesting to the audience to see how that actually works, and how user-friendly as this app is.
No, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from anyone, or suggestions to us? Emina, I know that you will always have an opinion.
I want to say how amazed I am by your work, and also your solution, and how amazing it is that the way you're giving women and girls a voice. That's the key thing for me here. And I just want to say that it's amazing that you want to involve men, because even if when you said that women or mothers are in the way, maybe as a key barrier, but if you would look deeper, I think you would discover that men are behind that as well, because sometimes they leave these uncomfortable things to mothers to deal with, and then mothers is kind of the one taking that attitude. But so involving men and changing men's behavior is also very, very important in this issue. And also men are good allies. I have learned that, and that's also another reason why we should involve men. So this is great. And to be honest, I have never throughout my professional life, and I've been working with gender equality for a very long time, been involved in this topic. So this is amazing that somebody's it's bringing this up, and also looking for a solution. It's a practical, everyday thing that women suffer from, but nobody's looking at it, because I don't even women see it as an issue, but it is a practical issue that needs to be addressed. And there are in poverty context, this is a health related issue as well. And I like also the way you look at it from the environmental perspective. Unfortunately, men are producing these products and making money on it, so they maybe don't see the thing all the way, and also that it creates a bad environmental impact. So I like this holistic approach that you're having. So big congratulations on this, and happy to be on the call, really.
Thank you so much.
I'll bring this to my work further, yes.
Great. You know, just to share one terrible anecdote. Oh, go on, Ratnamala, please, over to you. Ratnamala?
You're on mute, Ratnamala, in case you're talking.
Hi, I'm Ratnamala. I'm part of the SMC, and I was actually very delighted to be invited by Imran to join, because as of many others, I'm actually one of the civil society organizations who works in remote rural areas. And what happens there's so many civil society organizations these days working in sustainable menstruation, but we just managed to be like a drop in an ocean. And to reach scale and to reach it sustainably, this SMC, the coalition coming together, is a very powerful movement. It's actually bringing all of us together to really fill up an ocean and to make a sea change the way it's coming together. So I think this is what I see is a real movement with the SMC. It's a coalition who's bringing in a lot of people who are doing just this in various areas, and actually doing it using an app now. So we'll be using IT to be able to sustain, to monitor data, to triangulate data. We'll have dashboards to see and to show numbers as to what differences we're making. I think it's absolutely incredible. More power to you, Imran, and everyone, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is indeed not possible without you and the partners, and we've really co-created this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Edwin, are you able to share a little bit? No? If
Yeah, I will see what I can share, see if it works. Do you see the screen?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so this is my mobile phone here. So we've been working with the SMC together on what kind of questions and topics do we want to bring up. And this will evolve over time. So at the moment, we touch upon a few things, including their disposal of the products they currently use. We ask them what they have used in the past. So we have a range of questions, but over time, once they get going, we will change the set of questions for them. And then ultimately, because it's all about impact, and ultimately we want to gather information regarding their education. So in a few years' time, we want to make sure that we have a good sense of data, or whether they are still in school, or whether they have left it prematurely. So those are the things that we want to do. So when the user, they download the app once, and then we have the ability in the background to upgrade automatically what is in the app, what the app is actually talking about. So what we have right now, it is the app also allows them to use the app while they're not connected. They have to be connected at some point to download the app, but it is something that they do not always have to be connected. So it stores some of the information on the phone, and then when they are connected, it automatically does it for them and puts it into our database. So we have just in the beginning, we ask a few questions just to make sure that we know what we're talking about, how old they are, where they are at school, at college, uni, whether they have a job, and also, most critically, whether they've had their first period already. So if they say yes, then we have a bunch of questions that are related to that. If they say no, we have another set of questions that are not so many questions, of course, for that. So then we take information about when they had their first period, and for okay, so this shows that this is a testing mode, so it shows a little bit about our capability for them to communicate. So if there is something that they want to say, did they learn about their menstruation before they got the first period? If they want to say something about that, there's ability for them to start a conversation with other people on the same project. And they can also add a photo if they want to. So anything they type here gets shown to all the other people.
So this is the key feature, just to elaborate on that, and we're coming to the top of the hour, but this is the key feature, that when they start typing and writing this, they are connected with others who are facing exactly the same issue, right? But it's anonymous, and they can then start helping each other. And you can imagine that later on, when it comes to the usage of a particular product, they can then get help from each other in real time, like this, right? And then experts can be there as well, but it is above all peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and what we've done, so in this case, I didn't show you, but the first thing the app does is ask your language. So you can select your language. That means that we have it right now in English and in Hindi. So if we go to an area then where English is not widely spoken, then they can connect with each other in their own local language. And we will, over time, adapt it to many other languages spoken in India. So we want to make sure that it's always catering to their needs. Right now, it's an app that is only for the smartphones, only actually for Android at the moment. But what we obviously want to do is make sure that it can even work on feature phones, because there still are millions of feature phones out there where there's a little bit of connection, but we want to make sure that we can gather data from them as well. We also have a special mode where in those cases where the girls do not have a phone, we have a mode that the app is run by a community health volunteer who then can go around and gather data and collect data from the girls who do not have a phone, and that gives us still visibility about what's going on. So of course they wouldn't have the voice, the power of communicating with each other, but still their data is being tracked for that way.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Vin, for giving us spontaneous insight into your app. It's been the fascinating work that you're doing, and I really hope that, and I'm confident that super technology that you will reach the goal of 100 million. I just want to add to the point, or ask you just before we close. James asked in the chat or mentioned that in South Africa, it's been a huge issue as well. And I really hope that if you see that working well in India, that it's something that you're looking into roll out into other countries and have the same system change effect there as you're doing now on working on in India.
We would love to, right? And so James, by all means, get in touch. Lovely to hear you asking this. And but again, we really need help to make this happen. This is truly a broad-based coalition. Lovely to meet you, James. Great to have you on the call. So, please get in touch if you have ideas to suggest to us on how we can further strengthen this. Debbie, thank you so much for hosting us. Right?
Thank you very much.
This opportunity. Yeah. Have a
Thank
lovely day, everyone.
Yes,
and thank you so much,
pleasure.
Arundhati, Imran, and everyone. And I hope, Dr. Padmini, that you get some more sleep today.
Thank you. No, I'm
amazing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the input. Thank you for being part of the session, to all our speakers. Just want to mention again that we will be sharing this recording, and please share this recording to everybody that is working in that area that could have an interest in being part of that coalition. You're welcome to share that recording, and I'll be also sharing our speakers' contact details so you can reach out to them and connect them with other people that you know in your network. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I really look forward to seeing you at another session, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.